Almost There, Chapter 46, Tiana. The Ninth Ward, New Orleans, Tuesday, February 1927, Mardi Gras. Tiana awoke the next morning with a crick in her neck, courtesy of the uncomfortable chair she'd slept on. The moment she opened her eyes, she looked to the sofa. Her father remained motionless, his head still in her mother's lap. Tiana pushed herself up from the chair and quietly made her way over to them. Even though Louis's snores would mask any noise she made, he, Lizette, and Naveen were all still asleep. "How is he?" Tiana asked as she neared the sofa. Once there, she gasped. His hair had gone completely white, and the wrinkles on his face had deepened. He looked like an old man. Her mother glanced up at her with tears in her eyes. "I don't know what's happening to him, Tiana." "Go to Rosalind." Tiana jumped at the sound of Lizette's voice from just behind her. She turned to face her. "Go to her, now." Tiana swallowed deeply and nodded. "I'm going." "Who is Rosalind?" Eudora asked. "She's someone I'm hoping can help," Tiana said. She pulled her bottom lip between her teeth to prevent it from trembling. "Because Daddy needs help and I don't know what to do." She kissed her father's forehead, then her mother's. Tiana's stomach twisted at how wrinkly his smooth skin had become. He was aging before their eyes, becoming an old, brittle man. How much longer before? She didn't want to think about what could possibly come of this. They had been through this before. She had made a deal with the proverbial devil to erase what had happened to her father. She would not lose him again. "I'll be back soon, Daddy," Tiana whispered to him. "I'm going to figure out how to help you." She grabbed a purse from the hook near the door, then bounded down the porch steps. She went to the expense of hailing a taxicab instead of waiting on the streetcars to arrive. She would not pinch pennies. Time was of the essence. Tiana instructed the cab driver to take her to the corner of Royal and St. Anne Streets in the French Quarter. That would put her exactly where she needed to be. Navigating through the thick fog made the drive more harrowing than Tiana's frayed nerves could withstand. The green sludge had reached the edge of the Ninth Ward. Pretty soon, it would take over the entire city. By the time the cab driver pulled up to the building, her hands were shaking. She still wasn't sure if she would trust Rosalind. The flower monger had kept so much from Tiana, had perhaps even known who Tiana was before ever introducing herself. Remembering their encounters over the past few months and how Miss Rose would share all these gifts and her little drops of wisdom, Tiana now wondered if it had all been orchestrated. And to what end? Couple that with the infestation that had sprung from the Mardi Gras flowers the woman had given her, and the shifting imagery in the painting hanging on the wall at her restaurant, and Tiana wasn't sure Miss Rose was any better than Facilier. Had Rosalind put some kind of curse on her supper club? What was that the point of her gifts? No, she couldn't trust Rosalind. But her father's life was now at stake, and she had no one else to turn to. Tiana opened the gate of the red brick building and walked down the short comlade that led to the courtyard. She spotted Rosalind sitting there before a row of planters, filled with colorful blossoms, a watering can in her hand. It suddenly occurred to Tiana that the courtyard had somehow escaped the dense fog that encompassed the rest of the city. The dazzling pink roses, saffron freesia, and deep purple violets overflowing from the planters were a stark contrast to the drabness shrouding New Orleans. The air was redolent of the soft scents of lavender and sweet, tangy aroma of primrose. How had the woman managed to maintain such a beautiful garden in the midst of all this gray? "You're back." Tiana jumped at Rosalind and turned to face her. A serene smile played on her lips. "Happy Mardi Gras." She hadn't even considered that it was Mardi Gras Day. All the plans she'd made for the big celebration seemed so insignificant now. "Something's wrong with my daddy," Tiana said. "I came hoping that you could help. Help me help him." "Why don't we go inside?" Rosalind suggested. "We can have tea and talk for a bit." "I don't have time for tea," Tiana said. "Yes, you do," the woman stated in a firm voice that brooked no argument. She set the watering can on the ground and started up a nearby flight of stairs, not bothering to look back to see if Tiana followed. Then Tiana entered the small apartment. She wasn't surprised to find it was as colorful as the dress worn by the woman who lived here. The walls were painted a vibrant red, and curtains of sparkling beads hung in the doorways. "Please, have a seat." Rosalind motioned to a chair at a large round table that was covered with bright yellow tablecloth. Tiana balked. She would not just sit here and socialize while her daddy was growing into an old man. They were wasting time. I don't, Tiana started, but quickly quieted when Rosalind turned to her. Please, sit, the woman said. Then she smiled. There's always time for tea. Tiana reluctantly fell into the chair. She fidgeted as she watched the woman walk over to the basket of flowers she'd been carrying when Tiana and Lizette arrived yesterday. She broke off several of the lavender stems and placed them in a pot on the stove. Then she added water first to the pot, next to the tea kettle, lighting fires underneath both. Does the lavender keep away evil spirits? Tiana asked. No. So why are you using it? She asked. The woman looked at her with one shapely eyebrow hitched. Because of the pleasant scent, of course. She retrieved a tin from the counter and walked over to the table. There's nothing magical about these flowers, either, Rosalind said as she scooped up a heaping teaspoon of dried flowers and placed them on 2 of the delicate teacups that sat at the table. But we have a lot to discuss, and it is always best over a nice cup of tea. Tiana jumped at the piercing sound of a loud whistle and felt like a complete fool when she realized it was only the tea kettle. Rosalind carried the brass tea kettle back to the table, pouring the steaming water over the dried flowers, and then took the seat across from Tiana. A delicately floral scent permeated the air. Using a teaspoon, Rosalind swirled the flowers around her teacup until the water turned a color that matched the caftan she wore, then brought it to her mouth and took a sip. She looked Tiana directly in the eye. Do you understand what is happening, Tiana? No, that's why I'm here. But she did know. At least she knew why this was all happening. Rosalind looked at Tiana expectantly. It's my fault, Tiana went on, her throat tight. Dr. Facilier warned me what would happen if I didn't do what he asked. But I thought he was bluffing, and now my daddy's dying. He's growing older and older. He's aged at least 30 years since last night. Is that so? Rosalind asked. You know, when I was a young girl, my mother would always say to me, Tan al lapa tunyen. Time goes, it does not return. It's another way of saying that one can never return to the past. But maybe it is better to say that one shouldn't return to the past. Nothing good will come of that. I know that now, Tiana said. I never should have made that deal with Facilier. Look what's happening to the city. Rosalind shook her head. But he doesn't have the power to facilitate what is happening right now. This isn't between you and Facilier. Well, it isn't only between the two of you, she amended. The universe is sending a message. I am afraid it is very, very unhappy. With me or Facilier? Tiana asked. With you both, because you have both caused this disruption. My mother has another saying. Paisha du man, oui la mou. The paw of the cat is sweet, but its claws are nasty. She set down her teacup. You saw the sweetness of Facilier's deal without considering the consequences that would follow. He left me no choice, Tiana said. There is always a choice. The manner of pestilence has been unleashed in the city conveys just how upset the universe is with the deal that has been made. The fog, that awful green sludge that is everywhere, the swarm of insects. You mean like the ones from your flowers? Tiana asked, unable to keep the accusation out of her voice. You're talking about the marigolds and lavender? Yes, thousands of bugs flew out of the flowers last night. For all I know, they're still in my restaurant. Rosalind released a sigh. I was hoping the flowers would provide a level of protection along with the paintings. They were supposed to look after you, to shield you, but the forces are stronger than I anticipated. Is that why the Mardi Gras Indians in the painting keep disappearing? Rosalind's brow creased in confusion, but then understanding dawned in her eyes. So my calls for protection were not completely ignored. The disordering of the painting is a message, likely sent from Lawa. Beware, Tiana. I wouldn't be surprised if those around you start to go missing. People have gone missing, Tiana said. She ran down the list of all who had disappeared over the past few days. By removing the people from the painting, the spirits are trying to alert you what was happening. Unfortunately, you do not understand how to receive their message." Tiana shook her head, unsure what to make of any of this. "Can you please tell me what I need to do to fix it?" Tiana asked. She was growing impatient. But Rosalind simply took another sip of her tea before setting the teacup back on the saucer and folding her hands on the side. "You see, Tiana, there are things that happen in this world that are beyond what many people can comprehend. There are powerful forces at play. Most are good and cause no harm, but there are others that seek to wreak havoc. Unfortunately, Facilier chose to follow those forces, and now he has dragged you into it." She pinched her lips together, a pensive look clouding her eyes. "I know there was something sinister here from the moment I arrived in New Orleans." "It's Facilier," Tiana said. "People are in the neighborhood always would warn us about the Shadow Man and his "No," Rosalind stopped her. "Do not associate with Facilier practices with voodoo. Voodoo delivers peace and goodness into the world. It offers healing to those who are sick and solace to those who are hurting. It is about bringing joy into the heart, not misery and despair. Never confuse with what Facilier practices with the religion of my homeland." She lets out a sigh. "Facilier could have done much good in the world if he had been taken the time to learn the ways of our people, but he decided he wanted to go the easy way." She rubbed her thumb and fingers together. "Easy money." "He wants more than money," Tiana said. "Yes, he wants power. Always has. Facilier wants to control the city of New Orleans, and he believes if he can control those in power, then everyone he has ever wanted will just fall into his lap. That is where you come in." "But I have no power over this city," Tiana said. "All I have is my restaurant." "You have very powerful people who dine in your restaurant, Tiana. Facilier sees you as his ticket to get those people." "Mr. LeBeuf," Tiana whispered. The woman nodded. She tilted her head to the side. "How did you get mixed up with the Shadow Man in the first place? That's the one thing I haven't figured out." Tiana hesitated for a moment, but reasoned that she could not hold anything back from Rosalind. If she wanted the woman's help, she gave her a detailed account of what had transpired at Mardi Gras the year before, and in the year since. "All right, it's making sense now," Rosalind said once Tiana was finished. "His next payment is due." "Payment?" Tiana asked. "So it is about money?" "Not that kind of payment," Rosalind answered. "In order to provide the things he promised, when the two of you made the deal, Facilier had to call upon malevolent forces, and now those forces are demanding payment. I can't imagine their pride for bringing someone back from the dead. Whatever it is, you can be assured it's very steep." Tiana thought for a moment. "Would these forces happen to look like shadows?" Again, Rosalind nodded. "They can take many forms." "I think they've been following me," Tiana said. "I wouldn't be surprised. They want to keep an eye on you. Facilier has no knowledge of how to call upon the Lawa, so he must rely on these shadows instead." "So what do I do?" Tiana asked. "How do I defeat Facilier, and what can I do to help my father? How do I stop him from growing old so fast?" The pitying look that instantly clouded Rosalind's face turned Tiana's blood cold. Her voice trembled as she asked, "There is something I can do, isn't there?" "Here's what I know." Rosalind sucked in a deep, cleansing breath and slowly released it. Folding her hands on the table, she looked at Tiana directly in the eyes. "There is a symmetry to everything. You bargained for extra time with your father that he should have never been given, so I believe the universe is taking that time back. I've only heard of this happening once before, but those affected did not physically age. They were stripped of their memories, and they—" "Miss Marjorie," Tiana said with a gasp. "I don't follow," Rosalind said with a frown. "Miss Marjorie and Buford and Mr. Smith at the fabric shop. Something is going on with their memory," Tiana explained. "And you've had dealings with those people earlier now or in the past?" "Yes, all of them," Tiana said. "It makes sense," Rosalind said. "The universe is extracting the time you took from it by snatching up memories from those around you." Tiana tried to wrap her head around all of this. It was still so much more than she could handle right now. So are you saying that whatever is going on with my daddy and the others is because the universe is upset with me? It isn't because I didn't put Facilier's potion in the gumbo I made yesterday? Rosalind shook her head. Whatever Facilier gave you has nothing to do with this. That's most likely some sort of con on his part. I told you already, Tiana, the fog, the algae, your father's woes, is far beyond anything he can do. So why is this happening now? I made that deal with Facilier a year ago. I think you just answered your own question, Rosalind replied. You're approaching the 1-year anniversary, which also happens to line up with Shrivotide, or Shrove Monday, as they call it here. The Monday before the beginning of the Lenten season is a time of seeking absolution for the sins committed over the previous year. But what sin does my daddy need to seek forgiveness for? He's the most honest man I know. Rosalind brought her teacup to her mouth and took a very long, deliberate sip. You're a very smart girl, Tiana. I think you already know. It wasn't her daddy's sins. It was hers. It's because I brought him back, isn't it? Her voice cracked. I'm afraid so, Rosalind said. Remember what I said about the symmetry of those events? It was 1 year ago today that you caused this disturbance in the universe by receiving something that never should have been. The deal you made with Facilier disrupted the order of things, she said. To set things right, you must follow fate to continue as it first saw fit. Apprehension skated along Tiana's skin, causing goosebumps to pebble up and down her arms. What are you saying? She asked, although she feared she knew what Rosalind was going to say before the woman spoke. Coquille gendif a gen bleu tout. Where there's the fire, there's water too, she said. Every problem has a solution. What's the solution? Tiana asked. She was near her breaking point. Your father, Rosalind answered. As much as you want him to remain with you and your family, it is not meant to be. Tiana shook her head. She covered her mouth with her fist, trying and failing to mute the strangled cry that escaped her lips. Rosalind reached across the table and gently placed her hand on Tiana's forearm. She gave it a firm squeeze. This extra time you've had with your father has been a blessing. It has been a gift, but it has come at a cost that is more than this world can bear. The longer you hold on to him, the more destruction and despair will be unleashed upon New Orleans and beyond. You must willingly relinquish your father to his rightful place in the universe, Tiana. Am I just supposed to let him die? She cried. No, Rosalind said. Just letting him die isn't enough. You must give him permission to go. He is holding on because of you. Because you brought him back here. Nothing will be right in the world until you make the choice to release him. That is what the universe demands. It's the only way to atone for the disruption you've caused. So what do I do? She released a hiccuping sob. How do I give him permission to go? In this world, all beginnings have an end, or as my people say, all prayers have an amen. Tout la prive, gen amen. I don't understand. Your father has reached his end on the earth, Tiana. You are to offer these words until he passes on. Tout la prive, gen amen. Tout la prive, gen amen. Rosalind instructed. Tout la prive, gen amen. Tiana imagined saying the words to her father, watching him leave them once before, forever. She took her hands. She shook her head. I can't just sit while he dies. You must, Tiana. It is the only way. You must let him go.